You know this feeling. It isn't sadness exactly. It isn't the sharp edge of grief or the heavy weight of depression. It is something quieter. A specific ache that sits in your chest, a heaviness in your throat, a sense of being wrong in some way you can't quite articulate. You haven't done anything wrong. There is no specific event you are reacting to. You may have spent the day around people. You may live with people you love. But somewhere underneath all of that, your body is registering something. It is registering disconnection, and it is processing that disconnection in the only way it knows how, as a physical injury. Most people treat loneliness as an emotion, something to manage, something to push through, something a stronger or more independent person wouldn't feel. But neuroscience has discovered something about loneliness in the last 2 decades that fundamentally changes the picture. What you are feeling is not in your head, it is in your tissue, your bloodstream, your gene expression, your immune system. Loneliness, it turns out, is not metaphorically painful. It is literally painful. And the answer to why changes everything we think we know about what disconnection actually does to a human body. The cultural story about loneliness goes something like this. It's a feeling, an uncomfortable one, something that comes up sometimes, especially during difficult life transitions, and something we should learn to ride out or distract ourselves from. That story is dangerously incomplete. Loneliness isn't an emotion, not in the way we usually think about emotions. Loneliness is your body's alarm system telling you that something has gone wrong with the one factor your evolutionary biology cared about more than almost anything else: your connection to other people. For your ancestors, for almost the entire history of our species, being separated from the group wasn't an inconvenience, it was a death sentence. A human alone could not survive the night, could not gather enough food, could not defend against predators, could not raise children, so evolution did what evolution does. It built an internal signal that would make you absolutely unable to tolerate that state for long. That signal didn't go away when civilization arrived. It is still running inside every human nervous system right now, treating disconnection the same way it would have treated being left behind by your tribe 40,000 years ago. And what scientists discovered when they finally measured what that signal actually does to the body surprised even them. The story begins with a young neuroscientist at UCLA named Naomi Eisenberger. In 2003, she designed an experiment that would change how the scientific community thought about social pain. She put participants inside fMRI scanners, machines that measure brain activity in real time, and had them play a simple online ball-tossing game with what they believed were 2 other human players. What they didn't know was that the other players were computer programs. After a few rounds of normal play, the 2 computer players stopped throwing the ball to the participant. Just stopped. Left them out for the rest of the game. It was the most mundane form of social rejection imaginable. Eisenberger then looked at what was happening inside the participants' brains. What she found was published in the journal Science, and it changed the field. When participants were excluded from the ball game, the regions of their brains that lit up were the exact same regions that light up when a person experiences physical pain. The anterior cingulate cortex, the anterior insula, the same circuitry that processes a burn, a cut, a broken bone. Not different systems. Largely the same regions. Your brain doesn't have a separate system for processing social pain. It uses the physical pain system, which means, at the level of neural circuitry, being excluded by a group, being left out of a conversation, being rejected by someone you cared about, being lonely, hurts, literally, measurably. In the same way, breaking your arm hurts. Eisenberger's findings were so striking that researchers ran follow-up experiments. They wanted to see if you could treat social pain with painkillers. In 2010, a team led by C. Nathan DeWall at the University of Kentucky found that taking acetaminophen, yes, the same drug you take for a headache, measurably reduced the intensity of hurt feelings in study participants over a 3-week period. The same medicine, for the same kind of pain, different surface, same wound. But here's where the story gets stranger, because Eisenberger's work explained how loneliness feels. It didn't yet explain what it does. The man who answered that question spent 30 years of his life on it. John Cacioppo was a psychologist at the University of Chicago who founded an entirely new field of science, social neuroscience, in part to answer questions about loneliness nobody else was asking. Cacioppo's lifework was tracking what loneliness actually does to a human body over time. What he found is among the most disturbing and most ignored findings in modern medical science. Chronic loneliness raises levels of cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, sustained. Chronic loneliness raises blood pressure. Year over year. Chronic loneliness disrupts sleep architecture at a measurable neurological level. Even when lonely people don't realize their sleep is disrupted, chronic loneliness impairs immune function. Chronic loneliness increases inflammation. Chronic loneliness accelerates cognitive decline. And then, in 2010, psychologist Julianne Holt-Lunstad at Brigham Young University published the meta-analysis that brought all of this together. She analyzed 148 studies, covering over 300,000 participants, looking at the relationship between social connection and mortality. The result was so stark that the medical community has been arguing about how to respond to it ever since. Chronic loneliness was associated with a mortality risk comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day, higher than obesity, higher than physical inactivity, higher than air pollution. Let that actually land. The lonely person sitting in their kitchen, doing nothing wrong, hurting nobody, is statistically more likely to die in the next decade than a person who smokes a pack a day. Because loneliness isn't a feeling, it is a physiological state. A state your body cannot tolerate indefinitely without consequence, but the deepest finding came later, and from a different scientist. In 2007, Steve Cole at UCLA started looking at something nobody else had measured. Not how loneliness made people feel, not how loneliness affected their bodies in observable ways, how loneliness changed gene expression. Cole sampled white blood cells from chronically lonely individuals and compared them to white blood cells from socially connected individuals. What he found is sometimes called the conserved transcriptional response to adversity. In chronically lonely people, more than 200 genes were expressed differently than they were in connected people. Specifically, the genes associated with inflammation were turned up. The genes associated with antiviral response were turned down. This is the part that's hard to fully absorb. Loneliness is rewriting which parts of your DNA are active. It is not a metaphor. It is not poetic language. It is laboratory measurement. The lonely body and the connected body are running on different versions of the same genome. Seriously, sit with that for a moment. The same person, same blood, same DNA, same everything, produces measurably different patterns of gene expression depending on whether they spent the last year alone or in connection. Loneliness is not in your head, it is in your cells. So let's reframe what loneliness actually is. It is not a feeling you need to manage, not a weakness you need to overcome, not a failure of your independence or self-sufficiency. It is your body sending you an urgent, evolutionarily ancient signal that something foundational to your survival is missing. The same way thirst tells you to drink, the same way hunger tells you to eat, the same way physical pain tells you to pull your hand away from the fire. Loneliness is your body telling you to find your way back to other people. Right now, on this planet, an unprecedented number of people are sending that signal. In 2023, the World Health Organization launched a global commission on social connection, calling loneliness a pressing health threat. Multiple national health systems have begun treating it the way they treat tobacco use, as a population-level risk factor with population-level consequences. We are not lonelier because something is wrong with us as a generation. We are lonelier because we built a world that gives the social brain less and less of what it needs to function. Smaller households, fewer multi-generational homes, more remote work, less unstructured time around other people, more screens, fewer porches, fewer corner shops, fewer accidental conversations with people we didn't intend to talk to. The signal isn't telling you that you are inadequate. The signal is telling you that you are receiving less than your biology requires. So here is what this leaves you with. The ache in your chest, you have been calling loneliness. The heaviness in your throat, the wrongness you cannot quite locate, is not weakness. It is a 300,000-year-old alarm system telling you that your body has detected a survival problem. You can keep treating it as a feeling. You can wait for it to pass. You can distract yourself from it. You can numb it, or you can listen to what it is actually saying. It isn't telling you that you are too needy, that you should be more independent, that you should be able to handle this on your own. It is telling you, in the only language your body has, that you were built to live inside connection, and that something has gone wrong with the supply. And that leaves you with one of two conclusions. Either the ache is a flaw, something to suppress, ignore, or push through. Or it is exactly what your body was built to do. A signal as honest as hunger, asking you, in the only way it knows how, to find your way back to the people you were always meant to be near. The next time you feel it, don't manage it. Listen to what it's asking for. And go.